ahead and get started. Glad you're here. The first thing that I like to do is tell you where the program is situated. I find that people don't often know sort of where we are or what we're a part of, especially if they don't already go to the University of Mississippi. So when you look over at the School of Education, we've got two departments, really three now, but under the Department of Leadership and Counselor Ed, you have Education Leadership and Counselor Education. Within Counselor Education, we have Clinical Mental Health and School Counseling. Those are our master's degree. We have a PhD in Counselor Education and Supervision, and we have a fully online EDS program in play therapy. We're also just starting a new EDS in school leadership as well. So that's just kind of an overview of where we are. Some people don't even know that we're over in the School of Education. So, all right. So again, where is the program now that you know sort of where we are structurally? We operate here in Oxford. As of last year and before, we also had a Tupelo cohort. So we would go teach classes over on the Tupelo campus as well. But for this next admitting cycle, which is our fall 2023 cohort, we're admitting for Oxford only this time. So let me tell you a little bit about what is counseling. This is one of those terms that gets misused an awful lot. So professional counseling is a relationship that you have with an individual, a family, a group, could be children, adolescents, adults, where we work with them in terms of mental health, wellness, education, and also career. As I mentioned, we have two different tracks within our Masters of Counselor Education. So you can either do clinical mental health counseling or school counseling. Both of those are now 60 credit hour programs, and we're accredited by the Council for Accreditation of Counseling and Related Educational Programs that we call CACREP. And one thing that I would advise all of you as you are looking into graduate programs and considering the best fit for you is do make sure you look to find out if that program is accredited. And what that does for you as a student and soon to be graduate of that program is it helps a lot when it comes to licensure. So you're going to have a license in the state for which you practice. If your program is nationally accredited, it makes that process a lot smoother because you will already have all the educational units that you need to apply for that license. So it's a really important thing to look for, is your program accredited? And clinical mental health and school counseling here at the university are both accredited. So let's say you're interested in school counseling and you want to know, what do I do with that degree? You're going to help kids in a K through 12 setting, and you're going to help them apply their academic strategies. You're going to help them with emotional support and teaching interpersonal skills. And you're also going to help them plan for post-secondary options if they're going to go on to college or the military or the workforce. So that is, in a nutshell, what school counselors do. Some people are at the elementary level, some middle level, some are high school counselors. Okay. What if you're interested in clinical mental health? That means you are on your track to become a licensed professional counselor in the state. So that would mean you're probably working at a community agency. And then if you're interested in eventually a private practice, then you could do that. So what does a clinical mental health counselor do? They provide assessment, they diagnose, they do treatment planning, psychoeducation, prevention programs, crisis management, and all different types of counseling for people that might have depression or anxiety. Those are the two most common, substance issues, and a lot more. So that is, again, kind of in a nutshell, what a clinical mental health counselor does. Clinical and school overlap in some areas, and then they are very different in others. To become a professional counselor, you would first be a PLPC in the state of Mississippi, so provisional licensed professional counselor, until you accrued all of the hours that you needed to become an LPC. That typically takes about 2 years of full-time work after your degree. And then on the school side, you can become a licensed professional school counselor. And that takes about a year of work in the school system on that side. You have to finish your degree, of course, and then the supervised experience that you need post-degree. You always have to pass whatever exam the licensure board has for you, and they're always going to want a fee for that, and they're always going to do a criminal background check for that as well. So that's on both sides, school side and mental health. Okay, so now let's talk a little more specifically about what our program is about. So you would first take your courses. That's pretty self-explanatory. You would also engage and finish our supervised experiences, which is your practicum and your internship. And I'm going to break those down and tell you how many hours that requires and all of that in just a minute. The other thing, in addition to your classes and your experiential work that you have to do, is pass some assessments. So that's not just the grades that you get in your class, but also what we call skills and disposition evaluations. So skills, are you able to demonstrate your counseling skills well enough to move on into the practicum experience or the internship experience? And then dispositional has to do with things like your ability to take feedback, multicultural competence, things of that nature. And then the last thing that you have to do in terms of assessment is pass your comprehensive exam. So our students are about to sit for that now. It's always in February before they graduate. And it's the CPCE, lots of alphabet soup in this presentation. But essentially right now, what you need to know about that is that it's a national exam that the students take, and they have to make one standard deviation below the national norm or higher to pass that and graduate. The last thing that you want to do as you navigate the program is you want to avoid any disciplinary problems. So that's any academic issues, things like plagiarism, things of that nature. We also have non-academic disciplinary issues like cheating or forging hours on an internship log or something like that. So you avoid those kind of problems. You do well in your classes, you do well in your skills, and you're going to do great. Okay, I wanted to give you sort of a snapshot of what your coursework looks like. So over on the far side, you see things like lifespan, group, crisis, and elective. That's a long list of what all of our students take. So regardless of what track you're on, everybody takes ethics, okay? And then under CMHC, if you're a clinical mental health counseling student, you take things like diagnosing addictions, and then of course your practicum and internship are in clinical settings, not school settings. And then on the school side, you would take things like advanced school counseling, leadership, advocacy, and accountability in school counseling. So we have some specialized classes, but the majority of our classes are all of our students together. You might be curious about what your classes would look like from one semester to another. So this is an example. It's not perfect. It's not exactly like what our classes are right now, but it gives you an idea. So you would start off with foundations, either on the school side or the mental health side, whichever. Everybody takes lifespan, which is like a human development class, probably similar to one you've had at the undergraduate level. And then also counseling theory. So the foundation for which all of our practice is based on. That would be your first semester as a full-time student in the program. Right now, our students are in skills, so they're actually able to practice the things that they're learning with each other. They also are in groups, so they actually are a group and they get to learn about and practice group counseling skills. And they're learning a lot right now about children and adolescents, because whether that's going to end up being your specialty area or not, you will work with kids or you will work with families at some point in your career. So this is preparing you for that. You do go to classes during the summer if you're a full-time student. So the cohort starts in the fall and it ends the second summer. The second spring if you're a school person, the second summer if you're a clinical person. So it's 2 years full-time. That includes intersessions. That also includes summer. So it's a lot. It is your full-time job. This would be an example of what a schedule might be. So Dr. Bledsoe might be teaching the Foundations of School class on Mondays, 4 to 6:30, and Dr. Schmidt might be teaching theories on Wednesdays. Lifespan is an online class, and so it's asynchronous, and so students don't have to Zoom in or meet at a certain time for that class. It's fully online. Most of our courses are face-to-face. We do have some that are Zoom in. We do have some that are fully online, like the Lifespan class that I was talking about. And some of ours are hybrid, so some in person, some online. Those take place usually in the summer and the intersessions because we have such a short amount of time to still cover the 3 credit hour requirements. So that means you have to do some on your own and also come to class some. But we are a face-to-face program. So I can't stress that enough. Most of your classes are here in Oxford, face-to-face with your instructors and with your cohort. Okay, so I had promised to tell you more about practicum and internship. Practicum is 100 hours. So that usually takes place over 1 semester, or right now is taking place over the summer. So students do 100 hours worth of work. 40 of those hours are direct client contact hours. So that is when you are counseling someone and you have direct contact with them. The other 60, the indirect, that has to do more with like note taking, your time in supervision, that sort of thing. Supervision, you get an hour a week with your faculty member or a doc student or a supervisor, and then you get an hour and a half with your faculty supervisor. So a lot of supervision, especially as you're starting out there. If you are a school person, you're going to be in a K through 12, like Oxford High School or something like that. If you're a clinical person, then you would do your practicum over at the Cope Clinic. So that is a clinic that we have here on campus. It's at the South Oxford campus. We call it the SOC. It's the old hospital, if you're familiar for that. All right, there it is. 100 hours over at Cope. So over there, you might be seeing kids or adolescents. We see a good bit of college students and adults. And right now they are seeing people face to face, and they're also seeing people through telehealth. Internship happens after you're successful at practicum. It's 600 hours, so it's usually spread out over 2 semesters. 240 of those are your direct face-to-face client hours. Supervision looks the same. And so the clinical mental health folks, sometimes they stay at Cope, or sometimes they do some of their hours at Cope because they had a good practicum experience and they like it there. And then they might go out to another community agency like Oxford Treatment Center or Wellness or Stonewater or something like that. And then in the school setting, the students are still in a K through 12 setting, but they might change in their internship. Maybe they did their practicum with young kids at elementary school and they say, I'm ready to try middle school or high school to get a different experience. Or I know for sure I want to work with older kids. So we would put them in an internship there.
Dr. Perryman.
Yes.
Before you go on, we do have a question in the chat.
Okay.
I think everybody should hear it. Somebody asked, would the clinical mental health program be ideal if they would want to go into family counseling or want to focus on marriages?
Yes, that's a really good question. So sometimes people go into a specialized master's program, which is marriage and family counseling. We don't offer that here, but clinical mental health is a broader type of degree for which you could find yourself working at the University Counseling Center here on campus. You could find yourself working at a family clinic or with couples or things like that. So you could, again, work with kids, grown-ups. Clinical mental health is more of a broad brushstroke when it comes to different types of counseling.
Thank you.
Of course, yes. So how to apply? We hope you're interested and we hope you want to apply to the program. You have to meet the March 1st deadline. It is called a deadline for a reason. It is not flexible. So when we say apply, there's several parts to that. So let me be clear. There's an online application. You may have already seen that. So you fill that out. We also need the transcripts from all the places that you've attended. We do require a 3.0 for that in your undergraduate. And then we do require a GRE. This is something I get a lot of questions about because some graduate programs don't anymore, or they didn't during COVID and now they are again, and it's confusing. So we always have, we probably always will require the GRE. So if you haven't already taken that or made arrangements to take that, you should. We also need your resume. We want to see where you've been and what you're up to and what your interests are. And then also a statement of purpose. And this is, why do you want to go into counseling? And another important component is, why this program? How do you think we can best train you to help you meet your career goals? So that's what your statement of purpose is all about. And then we need 3 reference forms for you. And I'll show you where that is on the website, where you can send that out to 3 different people. Professional references are great. So if someone is your employer or supervisor, educational references are really great. So if someone has taught you, they've been your professor, you've worked with them on research, things like that, or they're your advisor, a reference from them is really outstanding. Okay. So all of this needs to be in by March 1st. And I do want to tell you that we have a free application weekend coming up. So if you are interested and you'd like to save $50, then we have a free application weekend, February 10th through 12th.
We also have another question, Dr. Perryman.
Yes.
Somebody wanted to ask, do we offer any classes starting in the spring instead of the fall?
We do not. So we run on a cohort system, which means all the students start together in the fall. The reason this is a good thing is because you are in classes with the same people all the time. And this really develops a community. It develops almost kind of like a family. So you're able to help each other and lean on each other. There are times for which people want to take some spring classes just to make sure that this is a good fit for them. And so to do that, what you can do is apply to the university as a non-degree seeking student. And if admitted, you can take up to 3 classes as a non-degree student. If you're then admitted into the program, you can transfer those in with you. The only thing about that is, if you then start the program in the fall and you bring those classes with you, it creates what I call holes in your program. So if you had intended to be a full-time student, and most of ours are, then there are these gaps then in your program that you have to fill in with other stuff if you're trying to maintain that full-time status, either for financial aid or assistantships or whatever that might be. So it's just something to think about if you're interested in doing that non-degree option. You certainly can, even if you just want to take 1 class just to see how that went. And there's no guarantee that that gets you admitted to the program, but it is for people who just sort of want to try it on and see if it fits.
And we have one more question.
Of course.
The application.
Yes.
Is there a specific GRE score or a minimum score students should have?
That's a great question. I get that a lot. And the answer is no, and it is a sincere no. We do have a cutoff for the GPA, but there's even sort of some flexibility around that. I'll talk about that in a second after I answer your question. The GRE, we do not have a cutoff. What's important to us is that you take it and that we can see what that score is on your verbal as well as your quantitative. And the first score I look at is the writing score. So it just gives us an idea of where you are in your potential to be a graduate student, but it certainly doesn't tell us everything we need to know. We're all counselors, we're all counselor educators. We don't look at numbers and pretend that those are people. We're not in that line of work. So that's why we need all of these other things, but it is just one piece of the puzzle. But if we had a certain number that we cut off for that, or we looked at that, I would tell you, because you would deserve to know that, but we don't have that. In terms of the GPA, some people didn't start off in college with really outstanding grades, and that happens, and that's okay. So if you don't have a cumulative 3.0 GPA, but you do in the last 60 hours of your program, then you should apply. That will count for us for your GPA requirement.
Also, another part to that question was, can we take the GRE on campus? Is it offered anywhere on campus?
I don't know that it's offered anywhere on campus. It's usually through the ETS, the Educational Testing Service. They may offer that over at the testing center at the JAC, but my suggestion would be first to go to the ETS website and see where you can take it. There was a time you could take it online. So I don't know if they're continuing to do that or what, but I would check there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So graduate school is not free. So you might be interested in financial aid or scholarships or even graduate assistantships. We sometimes, as a counselor education program, have GA positions for master's students. We have 2 master's students right now that are GAs in the office. Most of our students are graduate assistants all across campus. So they might work, trying to think, like the Graduate Writing Center or Teacher Ed or Rebel Well, places like that. So they work across campus because that assistantship can pay for their school and even give them a stipend. So it's a pretty good gig. I would reach out to the graduate school to ask about assistantships, because that's the very first place that people, different departments and everything around campus will let know, hey, we're looking for somebody. Again, if you have questions about how much tuition costs or how to get financial aid or scholarships, go to the graduate school. Their information is down at the bottom of the screen. They know all of those things. One scholarship I'll go ahead and mention is our diversity scholarship. So if you are going to apply to the program and you represent any sort of diversity whatsoever, people usually think of that as racial and ethnic diversity. It doesn't have to be. It could be any number of things. But if you are a person that represents that, you can apply for the diversity scholarship, and that helps to pay quite a bit of graduate school. And there's instructions on that on the graduate school's website. And if you apply to the program, you will get emails from the Graduate Studies Office here in the School of Ed, and also from me about what that scholarship entails, and if you're interested in it, how to apply for it. So we really encourage that, and we would, of course, like to see even more diversity represented in all kinds of ways here in our program and on our campus. If you go to our website, it may not be much to look at, but there's a lot of information there. One thing that's particularly helpful is that frequently asked questions page. Most of your questions will probably be answered there. If they're not, this is my email address. So you can ask me anything that didn't come up today, or I'm really bad about, after a meeting like this, I drive home and then, of course, I think of something. So if that's you, or it's tomorrow when you're shampooing your hair, and that's when you think of it, you can always shoot me an email. If you have a question specifically about your application, let's say you have applied and you want to know if they got that reference form from Dr. Smith that you asked them to do, you do need to contact them and ask them that, because I am not in charge of that process or those materials. They don't come to me until after the March 1st deadline. So I won't know. I won't know how to answer your question, but they will. So that's the grad education website down there.
And Dr. Perryman, we do have a couple more questions in the chat if you have time.
Of course. Yeah, of course I do.
Right.
Stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay. The question is, I'm sorry, I lost my place. Okay. Is that do they take the general GRE?
Yes.
She's been offered multiple GREs, so it's just the general.
Yeah, it's just the general. It's just the one that's got the verbal, the quantitative, and the writing score. I know they have all kinds now, but yeah, it's just the general test.
Okay. And then our next question is, if I wanted to begin graduate school in the fall of 2024, would you recommend that I take the GRE now to see where I'm at? and consider retaking it again based on my score?
You know, for us, I can't speak to other programs and that kind of thing, but for us, it's just one piece of the puzzle. And I don't think that you need to take it multiple times, and I don't really think that will help you increase your score. I think if you take that test a few months before you apply, ideally, so that you're sure to get your scores in and all of that, then that should satisfy the requirement.
Okay. And I know we had another question in the chat. It was, how do you find out if you have a 3.0 on your last 60 hours of completed coursework? Keep in mind that you must complete this semester, but you can also ask your advisor. You can check your transcript, and then it'll let you know. But keep in mind, you must complete this last semester, which is including your last 60 hour. And we have another question. Is there an interview process at any point, or will we just receive an email if admitted?
There is an interview process. I'm really glad somebody asked that, because I didn't talk about it at all. Once we get all of your materials and we go through those and make sure everything is there, what we're mostly looking to see is if we think that you're a good fit for this program, meaning are we going to be able to help you accomplish your goals? So once that happens, then you will get an email from me inviting you to an interview that's going to take place here on campus. That happens, I want to say March 24th. If that's a Friday, we just set this date, so I'm sorry that I don't know it off the top. It is, okay, March 24th, save the date, will be our interviews here on campus. And what takes place then is, sort of a welcome and introduction, a sort of giving everybody a bit of an overview of the program and what's going to happen that day. And then we'll break you off into groups and ask you to participate in a group activity. And that way we get to kind of see what you would look like in the classroom, so to speak, and how you engage with others in a group. And then we do individual interviews. So you'll meet with a faculty member and they'll ask you a standard set of questions, and then see what questions you have too for us about the program and that sort of thing. And then you find out after the 24th, it's usually within the next couple of weeks, because we know that people really need to know those decisions so they can move forward with what they're going to do next. They might have to move, they might have to get finances together, that sort of thing. So we try to be very quick about our responses to letting people know if they're accepted to the program.
Okay. And we have another question. Where do we submit our GRE scores? Directly to the graduate program, to a specific person, or on an application?
Directly to the graduate school.
And if you have any questions, feel free to utilize the chat. I will ask your question if you don't feel like talking. I promise you it's fine. Ask as many questions as you would like. Oh, okay. So we said a question was, where can we find this recorded video? If you, Dr. Perryman, can you share your screen one more time?
Sure.
And just show the website where we have our old video at, where they can find it.
Oh,
so
okay.
while Dr. Perryman is doing this, we will have the video uploaded sometime next week. We'll have to add closed captioning, and then we'll add it to our website, which Dr. Perryman is pulling up right now. And you will see where we have the video, just in case you have any friends that missed the session, or if you need to recover any information that we covered today.
Okay. So let me go to the main. There we go. So you come back to you and share that with you. There we go. All right. So that Counselor Ed website that I showed you before, if you click on admission, this is the page that you'll get, and you can see this is where the video will go. This video, you can tell was filmed during COVID. They talk about a step-by-step process of applying to the program. And then again, all the materials that you need, all of that's here. And that reference form that I said you need 3 of is right down here.
Okay, you asked a lot of questions and you just don't even know. So we had a question, where can you find the reference form? Dr. Perryman clearly just showed you the website. You can see it where to see the reference form. Also, we have another question. Do I need to apply to the graduate school? If you look right here on the screen, it says apply now, March 1st. If you click on that link, it'll take you to the application. Where can I get more information on the graduate assistant program? You can find that out with the graduate school. If you was to ask them, usually they host a fair with all the departments inside, I think the Union Ballroom. And it's kind of like an interview style where you go around with your resume and you venture off to the department you would like to work in. You will get to get a little insight. And so you can find more information about that with the graduate school. And then we have another question. For this program, does it depend on the amount of applications based on how many are accepted? If there are specifics, what do the acceptance rate look like as far as application and acceptance?
That is a really good question. And this is another one of those times where we do not have a hard and fast cutoff for that. We have sometimes had a cohort of 15. We have sometimes had a cohort of 25. So we usually get a lot of applications. Of those, they're not always all complete. So make sure you have all the materials for your application. But yeah, it really just depends. It depends on the quality of the applications, but we don't ever have our administration or anybody saying, look, we only have this many seats, you can only take this many people, or hey, enrollment's down, y'all need to take as many people as you can. Like, that's just not how our program operates. We have too many ethical guidelines and things like that about, producing competent, ethical, good counselors. So we're particular, but we're also, I would say, very inclusive. We have people from lots of different backgrounds. We have students that are different ages. We have some that work full-time, some that are graduate assistants, some that are straight out undergrad, some that haven't been in college in 10 years. So, we have a pretty diverse group right now.
Right. Do we have any more questions? Like I said, feel free to ask away. All right. Dr. Perryman. Oh, okay, we got one more. For the scheduling, in terms of how many hours we take, are we only limited to the foundation schedule presented earlier?
Yeah, so for graduate students, 3 classes, which is 9 credit hours, is considered full-time. If for some reason you wanted to do less than 9 hours, like for instance, sometimes we have employees of the university and they will take 6 hours at a time. So 2 classes or 1 class at a time, which is fine. We can develop a schedule for you. Of course, it's going to take longer, but we can develop a schedule for you that works around those things. Most of our students are full-time. They take 3 in the fall, 3 in the spring, 3 in the summer. The next year kind of looks like that too.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Perryman, but throughout the program, it's really no break. So they go fall, winter intercession, spring, summer.
Yeah. So the first years will have trying to think, we just moved around some classes, but they'll have a winter intercession, but not a May intercession. And then I think that flip-flops the next year, but you get, and an intercession is just 2 weeks. So it's a lot of class to cram into 2 weeks. But yeah, it's not the next couple of years are not a time for you to go to the Bahamas.